everyone, it's Little Rage back at it again, and today we are going to Jones Creek. And of course we got to start at the greatest convenience store chain on the face of the earth, Buc-ee's. So we're starting off here in Brazoria, so let's get our trip to Jones Creek underway. Now we are in Jones Creek. We haven't hit the actual business section of Jones Creek. This is more on the north side of town, but as you come into town, there is this spot here that has 3 markers, and Peach Point Plantation, which we'll be going to here in just a little bit, also has a lot of historical significance for this area. So right now we're going to look at the Battle of Jones Creek. So this was fought by a Texan army of 23 men under Captain Randall Jones, sent out by Stephen F. Austin to the lower Brazos to fight cannibal Karankawa Indian scouts. Karankawa Indians. Scouts found the camp here, attacked at dawn, found Indians ready with spears. Jones' guns got 15 Indians and dispersed the rest. So right around this area was a pretty significant battle when it comes to the clash between Texan settlers and the Native Americans of this area. Also here we've got Major Guy Bryan. Now this dude is pretty interesting. Born in Missouri, rode a mule to Texas in 1831. I can only imagine how uncomfortable that was. To join his uncle Stephen F. Austin, father of Texas, a private in Texas War for Independence, legislator, congressman, member of Texas Secession Convention. Enlisted as a private in the Civil War, but his administrative ability, diplomacy, and political understanding soon cast him in the role of troubleshooter and liaison man between the state and Confederate governments and the military. Convinced CSA leaders of need to leave enough troops in Texas to guard coastline and prevent Indian attacks. Arranged 1862 Conference of Governors of Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, and Texas, and delivered their request to President Jefferson Davis for creation of a strong military department west of the Mississippi River. Helped reorganize armed forces in both in East Texas, served as confidential adjutant to both President Davis and Trans-Mississippi Commanding General. Settled dispute among military, state of Texas, and Confederacy on acquisition and sale of cotton, the lifeblood of the South. Took part in battles in 1864 to prevent federal invasion of Texas. Arranged governors' conferences in 1863 and 1865, and he is currently buried in the State Cemetery in Austin. And in the last marker that we have here was set up by the Texas Highway Department, and this one looks like it needs to be cleaned up pretty good. But 1/8 mile south to Peach Point, home of Mrs. Emily M. Perry, who was born in 1795 and died in 1851. Only sister of Stephen F. Austin, who regarded the place as his home after the burning of San Felipe on March 29th of 1836. And of course, that is known as the Runaway Scrape. So we're gonna go that 1/8 mile down the road to where Peach Point is at and do a little exploring around there. Let's see what we can find. We are now that 1/8 mile from that previous marker, and we are at Gulf Prairie Presbyterian Church. And this, I did a little walkthrough before I started filming just to kind of get my bearings on everything. But this is a very historic cemetery, and it is dominated mostly by the Bryan and Perry families, and there are quite a few historical markers here, and it's almost a little overwhelming, to be honest with you. But we're going to take a walk through of this historic cemetery, but we're going to start right over here beside this church that's just over my shoulder here. And I'm going to turn the camera around here, and here we've got the designation as a historic Texas cemetery. Gulf Prairie Cemetery, established 1833. Of course, the marker is property of the state of Texas. So this goes into a little bit of Gulf Prairie, and it states here it's a pioneer cemetery, originally part of Peach Point Plantation, used by descendants of James Franklin Perry and wife Emily Austin Bryan Perry, Stephen F. Austin's sister, and by the community since 1829. In 1836, Austin, the father of Texas, was buried here. His remains were reinterred into the state cemetery in the city of Austin in 1910, and they do have a monument in the cemetery that does designate where Stephen F. Austin was originally buried. And here we have Major James Peckham Caldwell, adjutant of the Texas Army in the Battle of Velasco, June 26, 1832, wounded there. He was guarding civilians at the time Texas won independence in the Battle of San Jacinto, April 21st, 1836. A bosom friend of Stephen F. Austin, Caldwell received land grant from Mexico in 1824. In 1830s, he had a sugar mill, said to be the first person on the Brazos. He married Ann Munson, widow of his friend H.W. Munson. They had a son and a daughter. And then finally right here, we've got Henry William Munson, heroic early Texas soldier, fought in Battle of the Medina near San Antonio in 1813, returned east afterwards, but moved to Texas as a colonist in 1824, fought on behalf of Mexico to quell Fredonian rebellion in 1827, but against Santa Anna's agents in 1832 Battle of Velasco. Munson married Ann Pierce, and their family of 8 children was a son, Mordello, yeah, I believe that's correct, named for the Mexican officer who saved the life of H.W. Munson at the Medina. So we're starting off with a bang when it comes to the historical significance of this particular cemetery. So we're going to walk around, and I think we'll start with the Perry monument that we've got over here, and then we'll go into this little fenced off area that you're starting to see over my left shoulder here. And it's this cemetery is still being used by the community. And as I was walking through earlier, I did see some gravestones of infant children and things like that these poor souls lived anywhere from 10 to 14, maybe 20 days. And again, that's heart-wrenching to me. But right here we've got 2 historical markers, one for James Franklin Perry, and he came from Pennsylvania, then to Potosi, Missouri, and joined the mercantile business of his relatives Samuel and John Perry, and became partner in 1818. While living in Potosi, Perry met and married Emily Margaret Austin Bryan, that's a mouthful, a widow of 4 children. With 4 children, they were eventually the parents of 6 additional children. Emily's father, Moses Austin, there we go, that's the man who actually secured the land grant that Stephen F. Austin would eventually take over and become the father of Texas. Emily's father, Moses Austin, and her brother Stephen F. Austin were pioneer leaders in the movement to colonize Texas. Upon the urging of Stephen F. Austin, James and Emily Perry and their family moved to Texas in 1831. James Perry established a mercantile business in San Felipe and a farm on Chocolate Bayou. By 1832, the family moved to Peach Point Plantation on the Brazos River. James Franklin Perry was an active supporter of the Republic of Texas, serving at conventions and on the Committee of Safety. As executor of Stephen F. Austin's estate, his reports to the government concerning colonial affairs, maps, and land papers became important to the archives of Texas. Perry died of yellow fever while visiting Biloxi, Mississippi in 1853, and is buried there. And now we've got Emily Margaret Brown Austin Brown Perry, that's a mouthful, born in Austinville, Virginia, as her brother Stephen Fuller Austin, as was her brother Stephen Fuller Austin. Emily moved with her father Moses Austin and mother Maria Brown Austin to Missouri in 1798. The family operated lead mines there and founded the town of Potosi, south of St. Louis. Emily was sent to schools in Kentucky and New York and returned to Missouri in 1812. She married James Bryan in 1813 and gave birth to 5 children at Hazel Run, Missouri. After James died, Emily subsisted by taking boarders and teaching school. She married James Franklin Perry in 1824 in Missouri. Upon their union, produced 6 children. By the end of 1831, the Perry family, including Emily, James, 4 Bryan children, 2 Perry children, James's niece, and 9 slaves, had joined Emily's brother Stephen in Texas. They settled at San Felipe and built a house on Stephen's Peach Point plantation, providing a home and counsel for her bachelor brother. The Bryan Perry offspring contributed greatly to the development of Texas. Emily's sons served as soldiers and statesmen and preserved the Austin bloodline. Emily died at Peach Point shortly after a trip to Philadelphia and was buried here at Gulf Cemetery. And right over here is where Stephen Fuller Austin was originally buried. And the inscription up here, it's very hard to read. Says basically that he died at Columbia, Republic of Texas. He was 43 years and 1 month and 24 days old at the time of his death. And here it says, the state of Texas, October 18th, 1910, removed the remains of General Stephen Fuller Austin to the capital city of Austin, where they are re-entered into the state cemetery and a statue erected over his grave. And just to kind of scan scan through here, you'll see over here, this is pretty much the Perry area of the cemetery, and there's this very nice statue here, and you've got Emily M. Perry, daughter of Moses, Austin, and Mary Brown. James Franklin Perry, sons of James and Hannah Irwin Perry. And we've got some Perrys that were buried here in 1935, 1960, 61. Eliza M. Perry, Henry Austin Perry, and Charles B. Perry, Spanish-American War Rough Riders, and he passed from this earth July 5th of 1948. And to be honest with you, I think that this cemetery is in pretty doggone good condition, and it's I've been here maybe once or twice previously, as a teenager. Of course, when you're a teenager, you know, history is not the big thing on your mind. It's usually girls or sports or, you know, something along those lines. But you know, again, as you get older, your priorities change, which is a good thing. And there's some grave sites out here that are, seeing one just off to my right here that's from 2020, veteran. And then here, another Texas monument for Major Reuben Brown. In Texas War for Independence, joined Matamoros expedition of January 1836 in detachment that captured horses from General Urrea of Mexican Army. Brown was made a captive in a counterattack and spent 11 months in prison in Mexico, but finally escaped. In his old age, he lived at Surmer House, or Surmer home, of his daughter, Mrs. James Perry Bryan, a great-granddaughter by marriage of Moses Austin, whose courage had led to colonization of Texas. And we've got one more historic marker right over here. And before we get to that, some more Perry and Bryan grave sites here. You can see here, it might be kind of hard to see on the video, but that's a Bryan, and it's a tree trunk, and it's the inscription on here is kind of hard to read, and I'm not even going to attempt to. I do make out Brazoria County, Texas here at the very bottom, and it looks like died March 13th of 1903. And William Joel Bryan right here, that is the grandson of Moses Austin, whose dream of Anglo-American colony changed the course of Texas history. Came to Texas with his mother and stepfather in 1831, served in Texas Army from 1835 to 1838. A highly successful planter, he was instrumental in building a deep water port at the mouth of the Brazos. Town of Bryan, Texas is named for him. He married Bryan Perry, lived at Duranzo Plantation, a gift of his uncle Stephen F. Austin, had 7 children. So back in the day, it was a lot of this was about the offspring. It was not uncommon to have 10 or more children between a married couple, and it just kind of shows how times have changed. Now it's, you know, if you have more than 3, it seems like it's judged as overkill. But back in the day, it was nothing to have 10 children or more. But that's the Gulf Prairie Cemetery. Gulf Prairie Presbyterian Church, again, is right over here, and it's about 1/8 of a mile off of Highway 36 here in Jones Creek. One last look at the cemetery here. You can see that the cemetery does go across the street, and it's a good sized cemetery. And I did not see any kind of historical marker for this section of the church, but you can see back here that the cemetery does stretch on back that way as well. And once again, just like with the West Columbia or the old Columbia Cemetery, I do hope and pray that everyone that is buried there knew the Lord and is with him right now. So thanks for watching. This one should not be as too terribly long, but thanks for watching. Please consider subscribing, liking, all that great stuff. The more views, the better, of course, and we'll see you next time.